and welcome. Today we open a conversation that is both necessary and deeply human. Safeguarding is often understood as a set of rules, protocols or procedures, but in reality it goes much deeper. It touches the way that we see human person, it shapes the way we relate one to another, and ultimately it defines whether our communities are truly safe. Today we would like to approach safeguarding not only as a system, but as a culture of dignity, responsibility and safe relationships. To guide us in this reflection, we are honored to welcome here with us Father Hansem Zollner, one of the leading global voices in safeguarding and director of the Institute of Anthropology in Rome, and also Father Tomaž Mikuš, who has been closely involved in developing safeguarding formation here in Slovenia. My name is Matjaž Celarc, and I will be your moderator. Let us begin. Thank you both, Father Zollner and Father Mikuš, for being here with us. It is a privilege to have you here. And I would just begin simply with some brief questions. Father Zollner, if you had to explain safeguarding in one sentence, what is it?
I believe safeguarding is that I'm aware of who I am, what my boundaries are, and how I respect the dignity and the boundaries of another person and another community in which I work or live.
Often it seems a bit different, that we forget about who we are, what are the boundaries. What would you say is the biggest misunderstanding about safeguarding today?
I think the biggest misunderstanding about safeguarding is that once you have guidelines or safety concepts, the work is done. The necessity of having norms and laws and guidelines is clear. We need that. But what is more important is that from the moment we have guidelines, and even before, we need to implement them, to put them to action, and to change our attitudes and mentality. So that is very important, that it's not done by guidelines and norms and laws, but the change of how we really act and live out what is in those guidelines is more important.
To bring it to life, back to life. It seems that the abuse itself seems like external or individual. Why would you say that abuse is not just individual issue, but a responsibility of the whole community?
We see that safeguarding needs to be a responsibility, a task and accountability of the whole community, because we see that patterns repeat themselves, how abuse is prepared by perpetrators, how victims are not listened to by individuals, even their own families and their own communities, and how leaders and other people in such communities don't really own their responsibility when they see things that should be stopped or that need to be reported. So it is a co-responsibility at different levels, from the leadership to the simple members of any type of community, to really be aware what makes people flourish, which is safeguarding, which makes them grow, and what stops them to grow, or what doesn't help them to flourish, and where each one needs to intervene.
It seems a beautiful picture, so to say, no? What makes people flourish, that we are all responsible for that. If responsibility is shared, then risk is something we need to recognize together. Where are children and vulnerable persons most at risk today?
I believe we know from statistics and from all what we know from research that the most dangerous place for young people today, and also other adult populations in situations of vulnerability, is the online world. So the digital world, and even more aggravated by the growth of the use of artificial intelligence. We don't have a full grasp yet what that means for the safety and for the safeguarding of all humanity, and especially young people. But what we know is that, for example, abuse is most prevalent today, sexual abuse and other types of abuse, mobbing, etc., among young people, so peer-to-peer abuse. What we need more than we have today is a real education in the proper use of social media and artificial intelligence, and we need to invest in education and formation on that.
So that's very important, awareness, information. I would ask you here also, how can ordinary people, teachers, parents, priests, volunteers, become part of real network of safety?
The first thing is that I realize that I have something to say, even if I'm a simple, a very small part of this. I have some contribution to give to safeguarding. Each one. We are all together in this, or we are not really promoting safeguarding. Nobody is an island. So I am part of a family, of a religious community, of a parish, of a diocese, of the Catholic Church. And each one, in his or her capacity, in his or her role, and even as a simple faithful in the pews, have something to say, have something to learn, and have something to communicate about this. And be it just to really insist on the necessity that all of us engage and to promote this awareness and this commitment.
Each of us has a role in it. There are structures, existing structures, but something often blocks the process. What would you say is the biggest obstacle that prevents victims from speaking out?
What victims tell me and tell others when they finally start to speak out about the hurt that they have suffered and the harm that they have had to endure, it is that they were not believed. And that pertains to people who are supposed to really listen well and not only hear the voice, but also listen to what the person who has been harmed has been going through, which is parents sometimes, or family members, or priests, or religious, or even people who are friends of those who have survived abuse. So just listening and taking in what the person tells me is the first what we can offer, and it is the most important, as many victims say. I felt really listened to.
So that would be not being heard. It's in a way even worse than abuse itself, some victims would say.
Yeah, some victims say that when they started to speak out, when they approached their own parents and they were rejected, or they were even scolded or beaten up because they were spreading lies or allegations against this holy priest or that holy sister or that very good teacher, whoever that was, they felt not only re-traumatized, but even shut up for years, sometimes decades, and they didn't dare to speak out again.
Here I would ask also, so to say, very important question. Speaking about victims, abuse, but on the other hand, safeguarding, where do you see the hope today in the field of safeguarding?
What I see over the years and decades in which I have been working on this, and what gives me hope, is first and foremost that over those years I see change. I see change within the Catholic Church. I see some change also in some societies across the globe. So we are in a different situation compared to 5 or 10 years ago. We wouldn't have been sitting here 5 years ago in Slovenia. A lot has happened since 5 years or 10 years ago, and for whatever reason, even very difficult reasons, very painful reasons, we have come, at least in this country and in this Catholic Church, to a better understanding how important it is to tackle this issue. Pope Leo, in his recent address to the newly appointed bishops, told us to do that. We need to face the reality. Secondly, I believe that there is a learning process, and I'm privileged enough in our Institute of Anthropology, but also through our blended learning or through the many conferences worldwide which I give, to come to know many people who are really engaged and really committed. I can say that it is very impressive to see many people at the grassroots level, so simple teachers, religious sisters, priests, who are really committed to this, and this gives me hope. Whenever we finish also a class at our institute and I meet the people and they are changed, it's not only an intellectual endeavor, it's not only an academic knowledge that they have acquired, but a different type of attitude. And thirdly, I believe that victims have, in many places at least, have acquired more voice. And this will keep us going, because I do believe we need to listen to the hurt and be informed about what victims tell us, what leads to abuse and how we can prevent it more effectively.
Thank you for these words. I would just stick to, in a way, formation or education. You were one of the founders of Center for Child Protection, now known as Institute of Anthropology. Could you help us understand a bit more why the Center for Child Protection was originally founded and what its core mission was?
The Center for Child Protection came out of a conversation that I had at the level of the federal German government's working group on child sexual abuse in Germany, following the news about clergy sexual abuse in Germany in 2010. So I was in contact with a child psychiatrist from a state university, and we thought to bring education and formation to the Catholic Church worldwide in promoting knowledge, but also in promoting the action pieces that help people at the level of diocese or school associations or religious provinces to really implement safeguarding measures.
To touch the life itself, so to say. Here I would have another question. The formational program has shifted its name, so to say, from Center for Child Protection to Institute of Anthropology. What does this anthropological shift mean for how we understand safeguarding at its core?
So until about 2017-18, the main focus in the public eye and also in media and also in the church was on sexual abuse committed against minors of age by clergy. That was the main focus. But after the Me Too movement in the United States and after Pope Francis spoke about religious women abused by clergy sexually, we could not possibly stay on the focus on children alone. And because of the debate on spiritual abuse that has started from about 2020 onwards, we could not focus only on sexual abuse. So to really somehow meet the expectations that we cover everything in that field, possibly we shifted from Center for Child Protection to anthropology studies in human dignity and care of vulnerable people. We went beyond the previous focus, because every human person has a right to flourish, has a right to be safe and to be guarded, and has a right to grow. So we want really to understand better what areas of abuse there are, how we can provide an environment in which people feel safe and are safe, and what that has to do with our Christian understanding of the human person, which includes also the shift that we have seen over the last years in the use of the internet and the impact it has on human self-understanding, on our relationship with ourselves in our deepest soul, and what it means for our faith. So we want to have a broader and a more comprehensive vision and also an understanding of where we are with our being, our relationships, and our community, so that people, by means of education and formation, can live out their Christian vocation better and more consistent.
Thank you for this comprehensive response. I would ask also, so the Institute promotes also e-learning, blended learning. I would ask you here, how far has this model helped to make safeguarding formation more accessible globally, and how widely is it being used today?
We have started as a Center for Child Protection, and we continue to offer blended learning as one major component of our educational offer, because we believe with this instrument we can reach many more people than those who can come to our residential courses in Rome. So we have had tens of thousands of participants so far, and we hope that with our newly revised version of the blended learning, e-learning, we will come in contact and work with other institutions also outside the Catholic Church. Until now, it was basically exclusively offered and taken by Catholic universities, school associations, religious provinces, diocesan training for seminarians or for priests, and so forth. Because the blended learning element means we offer some content online, but we rely also on the on-site activity and preparation and input on the ground from the institutions with which we work. Because there are cultural and legal and linguistic issues that we cannot provide. We cannot be experts for 200 countries in the world, so you need to rely on the people on the ground who have also some better grasp of what is necessary for this particular context in this particular culture. So we want to go beyond the usual cooperation partners. We want to keep them, but we want also to reach out to others, and we want to reach many more people so that at least a basic level of understanding, awareness, and capacity building is brought about.
Thank you. It's really the divulgation of knowledge in specific nations all over the world. And now it's very valuable to hear how this was experienced or is experienced here, also in Slovenia. Father Mikuš, you are really welcome here. You were part of the first cycle of this formation, and now you coordinate the updated version of this program here in Slovenia. From your own experience, how did this formation affect you personally?
6 years ago, I was named safeguarding delegate for Jesuit Slovenian province. And I became aware that I don't have the knowledge sufficient for my work. So this is why I asked my provincial to send me to the diploma course in safeguarding to Gregoriana, what was also made in a blended learning way. So we did a few months at home over Zoom and personal study, and then the other part we did in Rome. So my experience of this course was excellent, but at the end of this course I regretted that I didn't go for the master of safeguarding, because I just became aware of the vast knowledge you need to have when you work in this area. So, but coming back to Slovenia, so I really desired that we would design at least the basic course of safeguarding in Slovenia for the beginning, because I see how important it is to have this knowledge and this experience. It's not only about knowledge, it's also about the experience you get in the class. When you do, for example, an exercise of speaking with the victim, and suddenly you realize that you carry some biases, that you're very unskilled into talking to them, or when you see your own mistakes. So this is where you learn the most. So having the knowledge and in the same time practicing and thinking inside of your culture, I think it's really an important experience. And for me in Rome was also very enriching that we were students from all over the world. So we could see in the class the difference in this safeguarding area.
So seeing the differences, but also it is in a way also personal work. So to say, discovering what brings about also, I don't know, a personal experience or a practical work, as you mentioned.
Oh, absolutely. I remember meeting with the victims inside of the program. It's something you don't forget. And it opens you a new perspective. It's very different from reading just something, an article on the internet, from meeting a real victim. And we had this possibility in Rome. It was organized, and I'm grateful for this.
Mm-hmm. So it changes you personally, so to say.
Yeah.
And beyond your own experience, what has been the most significant impact of this program of Safeguarding Basic here in Slovenia on the participants here?
I would like to say that as I am member of the Commission for Protection from the Slovenian Bishop Conference, where we are 3 groups, I'm very glad so that this first blended learning program in Slovenia, that we have participants from the Bishop Conference Group Commissions. And because this is also uniting us, let's say, he gives us a common ground, so this learning. And this is one experience. And then the other experience is what happens in the class, so that when we learn out of what we hear, but also, exercises we do in the class. Even if this is only once a month, the meeting together and the study at home, but just that being connected into a common effort for safer church and to get to know each other and to get a common basic is, I think, the most important things.
So if I understand correctly, in a way, it's also train the trainers program, but also, as you said, it empowers the, so to say, this group, this community, in order to promote this new culture of safe relationships, so to say.
Of course, the first students will be those who will promote the safer church in Slovenian church. And I also hope that we will have new people coming to the course that will be not only from the commission, but from the ground. Means people who work and live in different parishes or organizations, and they can promote safeguarding there.
And this brings us to, so to say, final question about the future. So I would say I would have a final question for both of you, the same one. What do you see are the key next steps for safeguarding in the church and in society?
I would say the next steps that the church can offer and needs to provide for is that we integrate our safeguarding efforts, whatever that is, in any pastoral, educational, spiritual, social activity of the church. That it is not something separate, it is not something that put aside only for experts, but that everyone in whatever capacity, in whatever role officially, but also as a simple member of any spiritual community of any parish, knows that's a part of what we do as church, and that this is part of the gospel message. I think a next step really needs to be that we realize that this is a spiritual and a theological journey which needs to be integrated into our self-understanding as Catholics, as believers in Jesus Christ, as his followers, because he is the model which we want to emulate, and that needs to be done as much as possible in a consistent way. We always fail, we are human beings, and it will never be perfect. But I think a next step for me is not something, let me say, on a to-do list. It is on a to-be list. Be more aware, be more co-responsible, and be also more aware that this is part of your being Catholics and Christians, priests, religious, faithful, all in all.
So promoting the Christian identity, so to say. And what would you say, Father Mikuš, also looking forward?
Oh, I think in Slovenia, in the safeguarding area, I think now we started to do some real steps. It means with this formation program, with the code of ethics we bring, but now we need to bring this, as it was said, to the whole people of God. So it's really not enough if only one person knows something about safeguarding, and it's really not enough to know the things, but to change our behavior and attitudes. So I hope that with all these efforts, we will be able to change our church so that it will be a safe place for anyone who will come. And this, I think, is very important for our future.
Thank you both for this conversation, for your clarity, your experience, and your commitment. What becomes is clear, and it's this. Safeguarding is not only about preventing harm, it's about shaping culture. A culture where dignity is recognized, where responsibility is shared, and where every person, especially the most vulnerable, is safe. And perhaps the most important message is this. Safeguarding is not something extra in the life of the church or society. It is at the very heart of who we are. Thank you for being part of this reflection.